Yo, what's up? After countless weeks of news drops, we finally have some time to do a nice, comfy discussion about the best, strongest classes in Enlisted. For this, we use the standard internet scale for rankings of all kinds, starting with A, B, C, D, the standard school grades, A being the best, D being the worst, and we have the S scale on top, standing for super or special, meaning extremely good things that just way above the rest. S in this case would mean must plays, meaning squads or classes you always want to have, and A means very good classes, but not automatical no-brainer includes, and then it gets worse from that on. Having watched many videos like this over the last years on different topics on the internet, I noticed two things. A, they're very fun, they're ridiculously fun, very bingeable, and B, they are, if they're well made, extremely helpful to understand the overall picture and to get new perspectives on something. And this is exactly what we're going to do now. In order to get to this high quality, here's the evaluation system I'm going to use. For every single class type, I will take the strength of the class itself and the squad. So machine gunners have the machine gunner class that you can put into every single squad, even other squads, but there's also the machine gunner squad itself. And what we're going to do is we look at the average strength of both things, and then we put it accordingly into one of the brackets. And then we will have a nice separation and see what is actually dominating Enlisted, which squads are dominating, and also which squads are played how often. So we can see, alright, these squads are underplayed, these squads are possibly overplayed. And we start with the powerhouse of World War II infantry, the machine gunners. Now, what about these? They are one of the strongest squads overall from all BRs. You can't play them on low BR since no machine gun is BR1, but starting in BR2, they are possibly the strongest squad because you get the HMG, the heavy machine gun nest, which is just shredding everything on the battlefield. You get on higher BRs, on BR3, you get access to really good machine guns for the first time. Some of the best machine guns even in the game. And the HMG still shreds enemy tanks. On BR4 you jump to some very iconic weapons like the MG42. And on BR5 you get insanely strong machine guns. Sometimes even without any downsides, like the Soviet RD-44. So there's absolutely nothing that has higher firepower than the machine gunners themselves. The machine gun squad 2, I would say, also maximum firepower, and the squad itself also gives you maximum versatility because you can put an engineer into it, you can put a radioman into it, and then even an anti-tank gunner, and have 3 machine gunners itself. So there's nothing that's stopping us putting the squad straight into S tier. Because, yeah, maximum firepower, highest quality across all BRs, and even special abilities like the HMG nest and the perfect versatility. Yeah, this is a perfect S tier squad. Now, what about the mortars? Yeah, I'm currently working on a mortar guide, passively since around 1.5 weeks. And guess what? It's actually hard to get good mortar footage because the squad is very weak. It's so weak on low BRs, it's a joke, and on high BRs, yeah, this is when it starts getting good. But only thanks to the 80 centimeter mortars. Anything under that is just a complete joke. It's just even in theory, where low BR tanks should be easily killable. Low BR tanks are so mobile, they usually never stand still. And against infantry objectives, they are just, yeah. So mortars, basically unplayable on low BR, unplayable on mid BR. Because on mid BR, everything else gets stronger, but your mortar stays weak as hell. And yeah, on high BR, it's not like even all nations get access to good mortars. So yeah, and if you absolutely insist on playing mortars, you can play mortars from Paratroopers because they can get mortars in their crates. So the only way I noticed that mortars are even remotely playable is if you're already an experienced player and you have a team that actually goes to the objective. And what you do is you just whip out the mortar, call an artillery strike, mortar a bit around. You can spread it out on and behind and around the objective. And then you instantly rush in yourself in order to use the time window. but you really need to know the map well, your team needs to be good enough, and all of these ifs mean that the squad itself doesn't provide much. It's like the perfect contrast to the machine gunner squad. The machine gun squad gives you everything, and it will be stronger in terms of firepower. You can just overpower the enemies. You don't even need to think. You rush in and kill everyone and you win. Mortar squads are weak. They're only 6 men. They have versatility, but yeah, the power is just not there. And the fact that you, in order to be viable, need to stay quite at least 50 meters away from the target also isn't that good. If you could do direct aiming with your mortars, like a strong grenade launcher, I would say okay. But since they don't offer this, they're just not good. So the question is, are they C or D? Because S is obviously exceptionally strong, A is good, A is good to very good. I would say it's good since S would be very good. B is playable, C I would say is weak, and D is extremely bad. And since the mortar has some versatility, I would put it into C. But yeah, it's close to between C and D actually. We won't even calculate opportunity cost, because if you would compare this squad to others, you would never play the mortar squad. And then this would put it into D. But yeah, let's put it into C. And since you can't put mortars into other squads, at least not the Mortar Men, yeah, we automatically rank the squad, and the squad just isn't that good. Then every new player's favorite, the snipers. What about them? First, well, the sniper class is actually hard to rank. I made a short like 1 year ago or half a year ago, shortly after the merge I think, where I discussed what is the worst squad, and I was playing snipers at that moment. Guess what? Now, here's the thing. I noticed if you're a new player, sniper squads are actually viable, because sniper rifles are the strongest weapon possibly on BR1. Because everything else just is weak, but sniper rifles are always reliable. And they're quite fun to play, especially if you play them well, if you play them aggressively. I made a video about it, a sniper guide, how to play them aggressively, so you actually capture all your objectives while sniping. Yeah, most players don't do it like that though. Now, the sniper class itself, across all BRs, is, I would say, it's okay. On low BR it's very good, on mid BR I would say it depends on the nation, and on high BR it becomes good again for some nations. Like Germans have the insanely good full auto sniper weapons, Americans have the best bolt action rifle in BR3, the Lee Enfield, and every nation has okay sniper rifles in low BR. So by this alone there would be something like B to A, and the squad itself, well, would you play the squad? Here's the truth, only on low BR. On all other BRs, not. Because then, starting with BR2, you start getting really good SMGs. And machine guns on BR3 become extremely good. And rifles become also really good on BR3. Then you don't need any snipers anymore. So, yeah, the sniper squad is barely usable. This would put it, yeah, around B to C. I would say, since the sniper itself is quite viable, I would want to, here's the thing, I would love to put it into B, but many things that can be done with the snipers can also be done with tanks. Or anti-tank guns by engineers. So they're simply not that useful. They're simply not that useful, and just, yeah, the only thing that would put them into B is the fact that they're really good on low BR. Okay, let's put them into B, because unlike mortars, they're actually useful on low BR. And since the majority of players will play them on low BR, yeah, they deserve the spot on B. And what helps them too is the fact that on high BR for Germany you get insanely strong and fun weapons, the sniper, MKB, STG, and FG42. So on high BR there are also some powerhouses. Alright, then we got a new icon, as you can see, because the template wasn't providing any, especially not the Enlisted site itself, because it wasn't updated with the new icon, so I did it myself. The APCs, now this is a powerhouse. Why? Very simple. They offer the best mobility, the best logistics, sometimes even weapons. They are, unlike rally points, hard to destroy, especially the premium ones with a little bit of armor. And they are very comfy to play, meaning you don't have to waste any time building, running around. You just spawn in there and you drive somewhere very quickly, and you don't have to do any work. And you can even rush into objectives using them, making them even partially better than many other squads in terms of capping. Yeah, so they are really, really good. They are really good, and they are very fun to play, and they make enlisted players as a whole better, because even the laziest bumfuck suddenly doesn't have to focus for 12 seconds to build a rally. He can just jump into an APC and provide some logistical help to the team. So they are an absolute plus, absolute big win for Enlisted as a game and the whole player base. Question is, are they better than machine gunners? Yes. Because if you would decide, what do you play, APCs or machine gunners? I would always take the APC. I would always take the APC. Simply just because you absolutely need rally points, and you absolutely need as many spawn possibilities as possible. And APCs just double up, because you can have a rally point and an APC. So you always want to have an APC in your army, and you always want to have an APC in the game right now. So yeah, if I have the choice, machine gun or APC, I would always take the APC. So yeah, that's a no-brainer. Then a fun and interesting question, what about the Riflemen? Riflemen, the most basic class. Now, I made a video about them, and they're actually much more sophisticated than they look at first, because depending on the BR, you can do very fancy things. On low BR, basically the best thing you can do is just give them 3 grenades. This is the only way to make them really strong and make them better than just the filler material. Now, starting on BR2, you can start dual wielding things like semi-auto rifles and bolt actions, making them very flexible. On BR3, you can start grenade launching, and then you can do this up until BR5, where you possibly change to full auto rifles. So Riflemen themselves, they're not just filler. They actually have some good utility, especially the grenade launching, the dual wield grenade launching, which is their special ability, by the way. They are the only class in the game who can use grenade launchers, with the exception of anti-tank gunners who can use anti-tank grenade launchers, but it's not worth it, since you can only have one and it's way too slow to reload and unreload just to shoot 3 grenades. So yeah, by this alone there would be something like A or B. But what about the Rifleman squad? Oh, this makes it much better, because 9-man squads, this is good. This is the good stuff. 9-man Rifleman squads with tons of grenades, with tons of grenade launchers, or just with pure firepower from FG42 spam. Yep, this is ridiculously good. You can even do a perfect versatile squad. A perfect squad, by the way, I refer to is a squad that has an engineer and a radioman. So you can do everything. You can build rallies and you can call artillery strikes. Yep. Or you can just do 2 engineers, which is very comfy because you can quickly build things. I wouldn't put them into S tier because they don't have that much direct strength. They don't have that much strength and power as the machine gunners, and not the utility of an APC, but they're definitely very high. So putting them into A tier, absolutely good. Very important for new players to see, don't underestimate the Riflemen. They are very good. Then what about attack pilots? Oh, here it gets fancy. The game starts with some ridiculous biplanes, which are basically cannon fodder for anti-air guns on BR1. Yeah, they're so slow that you can quickly build an anti-air gun while being shot at, because the little machine guns from far away don't do any damage, basically, and then shoot it down. So they don't provide the best picture in the beginning, but in BR2 you instantly get access to insanely strong planes. In BR2 you get even better planes, and starting with BR4 it gets ridiculous with the Junkers 188 with 1.5 tons bombs. like 6 heavy bombs. And in BR5 you get nonsense like P-47s. So yeah, attackers provide some of the absolutely highest firepower. They're also a big noob trap, because if people use planes when planes aren't good, they just waste time and waste tickets, because instead you could just play infantry and accomplish much more. So this is the downside, that very often people just misuse them and make everything worse. And on BR1, as I said, they're not good. On BR1, fighters are oftentimes better. Well, they're definitely not S tier material, because except if you ignore things like the P-47, fighter planes instantly lose its dread. Yeah, people fear the P-47, but people don't fear the rest much. Yeah, and without the absolutely overpowered stuff, they wouldn't be even A. So there's something like B and A. I would say, yeah, I could put them into A. I could put them, yeah, let's put them into A. The arguments, like I noticed, I try to argue how weak they are, because everyone assumes they're very strong. Now, if we argue about how good they are, it's not just the pure firepower, it's the fact that they solve many problems. Because you can, especially if you have many bombs, just spray the gray zone and randomly kill groups of enemies trying to get to the point, or kill rally points and APCs, and they're one of the best solutions to enemy tanks, especially if your team has only weak tanks. So, and the fact that they jump across multiple BRs, so even if you use a BR2 plane, you can still kill BR5 tanks. This is very important if you're playing BR3 and you get up tier to BR5 games. So yeah, this deserves them an A tier spot. Riflemen, I would still say, are more important and stronger, simply since they have, very often they will get more kills per time, and they can cap points, and they can build readies. Attackers can't do that, but yeah, still a good squad. Still a good squad, simply for blowing up enemy tanks, which can be an absolute menace on all BRs. Then, the newest edition, Guerrillas, or Partisans. What about them? Now, I made a partisan guide where I discussed them in detail, especially their relative positioning with assaulters. Now, to make it short, they are very comfy and fun to use because they're very easy to use, but they're not that strong. If you want their strength, you really need to play them at their top, min-maxed. Min-maxed perks, min-maxed weapons, and min-maxed strategy, with meaning when you use them during a game. You can use them offensively with some power, but offensively other squads will be always basically stronger. Their only really strong specialty is actually if you're defending and you just lost a point and you spawn them, and now you're harassing the enemy from behind. As PDD would say, because you can just blow up all the logistics that they're building, trying to get to the next point, but you're still there. So, but this makes them, well, this special case, yeah, it sounds a lot like mortars, that their strength comes from a very optimal special case. But since they are very fun to play, and since they're very easy to play, because you have basically infinite ammunition, you can run around, you can blow things up. Yeah, like the fact that you never have to reload, that you never run out of ammo, is actually worth a lot. And it's very fun. They can use multiple weapon types. Yeah, I would say they're definitely better than mortars, simply due to the fact that they just have the firepower of 5 assaulters, basically. And are they better than snipers? That's the question. As a squad, definitely. As a class, well, they're limited to their squad. So, how do we rank it? Like, what would I have? What would I rather have? On high BR, I wouldn't want to have either squad. On low BR, I'd rather have the sniper squad. And on mid BR, yeah, I'd rather have the guerrillas, but I still would rather have snipers in my... Yeah, so overall, I would rank the snipers slightly above the partisans. But yeah, especially since the value of having one sniper in your army that acts as a zoomer and just to zoom in and snipe enemy machine gun positions, it's useful, but you can always have the utility of a sniper just by using one or two in your whole army within your squads. But in order to have the Partisans, you have to waste a whole squad slot. So the costs are too high. I'd rather have the snipers are worth more than the Partisans overall. Then we come with the juicy heavy steel, the tankers. Now tanks are so good that soy boys can't stop whining and complaining about them on Enlisted social media. Why? Simple. On every single BR, they range from very good to oppressively strong. Is it a bad thing? No, because this is how tanks work in real life. Tanks are there to dominate the battlefield. If the enemy can't deal with the tank, you win the battle. Very simple. And tanks are made to be dominating, meaning the enemy has to react because they have strong firepower, and they're built with high defensive abilities, so they're very hard to deal with. This is why they're so expensive and complicated to make. So everything makes sense from a historical standpoint, and they also offer mobility, though most of the time in trade-off with overall strength. Now, in Enlisted, even the BR1 tanks are really good, because despite having ridiculously weak cannons oftentimes, they are still hard to deal with. Especially in BR1, because the anti-tank rifles oftentimes aren't that good. So, and if the enemy wants to deal with your tank, he usually has to be a better player than you, or to play better than you, because anti-engineers, for example, well, if they start building anti-tank guns, you still have the mobility, they don't. Yeah, so the engineer needs to think better and more ahead than you. Engineer pilots also, it requires much more skill to blow up a tank than to just tank yourself around the map. And anti-tank gunners, yeah, they heavily rely on proximity and weapon quality. So yeah, tanks always have the upper hand. They always dominate the battlefield, no matter how weak they are. And they do this on every BR. This is a clear distribution of just perfection. So are they better than machine gunners? Yes. Are they better than APCs? That's a question. I would say yes. Because you can ignore enemy APCs. You can easily blow them up. You can oftentimes randomly blow them up by artillery strikes or just by bombing, or even by just randomly spamming HE shells in the enemy gray zone with your tank. Yes, so their impact overall on the game is bigger than the APC. For those who are not sure about it, ask yourself the question, can you ignore an enemy APC? Yes. Can you ignore an enemy tank? No. Even a well-positioned APC can be ignored. Just build more readies of your own, or just place more APCs of your own. And you're gonna have more spawn pressure than the enemy. Also, APCs are still quite easy to deal with if you know how to do it. But tanks, well, you can't ignore them. They're always dominant. They always demand answers. By the way, obviously everything we discuss here implies that the player plays well. Now, obviously we don't talk about the tank noobs who sit somewhere and get 2 kills per minute. Yeah, this doesn't count, because by that logic you could call every squad bad. So yeah. So tanks, well played, absolutely dominating, absolutely overpowered. Then anti-tank gunners. Now here it becomes spicy, because they are very useful on high BRs. They are very disappointing on low BRs, at least for most nations. And there's always the question, how do the anti-tank gunners scale relative to the tanks? Because it's obviously a weapons race, and some nations like Germans get Panzerfausts, which deal with every enemy tank. Other nations like Japanese start with the best anti-tank rifle in the game, but then they get the worst anti-tank rocket launchers in the game, so it fluctuates hard across the BRs. And yeah, the class itself sometimes is an auto-include, other times not. For most nations, I wouldn't even play it on BR1. On BR2, also for most, only for a few nations. I would play it for Germans, I would play it for Japanese, but not really for the others on low BRs. And BR3, BR3 I would play it for every nation. But, yeah, and for BR5, it drops off again for some nations. So the class itself, it's lackluster. It's not a very good class that you always want to have in your army or in your squad. And the squad itself, yep, since the squad only features the ability of building an anti-tank gun, it's not too special because engineers are just straight up better. They get the same anti-tank gun. And having access to 3 anti-tank gunners is not that great, since the squad is only 6 soldiers. So yeah, it has a perfect squad. You can have an engineer and a radioman, but that doesn't save it. Here's the problem. There are many reasons to play other squads, but basically no reason at all to play anti-tank gunner squads. Like the squad itself, the only thing that could make it worth it is if they get always a heavier anti-tank gun than the engineers on the respective BR. This would make them not only playable but also very fun, because heavy anti-tank guns are always fun to play. But until then, I would put them into C. Getting a heavy anti-tank gun would put them into B. But until then, there's C. Question is, are they worse? Yeah, they're clearly worse than mortars. Because the only reason to play this squad is to blow up enemy tanks. But you don't need 3 anti-tank gunners for that. So you rather play an anti-tank gunner in any other squad. And the squad itself, yeah, the squad itself is just a worse engineer squad. Significantly worse. So yeah, it's just not a good squad. Sadly, the squad is so much worse in the class that it's a clear case of bad game design. It could be very easily much better and more useful. Then the bikers, well, we don't even need to think about that one. You know what it is. Straight into D. Straight into T for trash tier if it was an option, because for those who don't know what bikes are, because most new players won't, because no one's playing them, rightfully so, they are basically a tank that has, instead of a tank, you get a bike. Instead of a cannon, you get a machine gun, and that's it. Oh, the only gimmick is you can have an engineer. I think you maybe even be able to get a Radiomen, but I'm not even sure because I played them for 30 minutes. And then I noticed that you need 20,000 experience to get the first level. And then I said, fuck it, never, ever again. It's just the only footage I have from that squad is actually me finding an enemy bike and using it against the enemy because it was empty. And I was just using the machine gun. I never used them myself because they're just a pain in the booty to play. It's not even funny how bad they are. This is just completely badly designed. The only advantage they have is their insane speed. But the maps in Enlisted don't really make it useful because you get stuck everywhere. Your bike is gonna jump against a tree because it drove over a little stone. Yeah, no, they're not playable. They're basically a strictly worse APC. Absolutely no reasons to play. Like, the only reason is you can build a rally in a flanking position. Yeah, instead I'd rather just place my APC there and get 6 soldiers. Yeah, so bikes, absolutely not worth it. Now, what about engineers? As you can imagine, either S or A tier. I'm gonna put them into S. Because they are... As a soldier class, they are the most important class, by far. Most important because you need rallies. Without rallies, Enlisted doesn't work. Unless you want to spend half of your game running around. And then losing the game after 30 minutes. Because you can't win the game if your team has 2 rallies less than the enemy team. Which is something that should be written on in the beginning of every Enlisted game. So every player knows that. Because many people still don't build rallies. So the class itself is the most important class in the game. The squad itself, or the squad, is also one of the best squads. On BR1, it's the best squad to play, because you get all the strong weapons, anti-air guns, anti-tank guns, machine gun nests, which are just better than anything you can play. So this is like the best by far BR1 squad. BR2, it's similar. BR2 you get better stuff, but you still have the versatility. On high BR you get the stronger anti-tank guns and stuff like that. Yeah, I expect Enlisted in the future, once Darkflow stops listening to the soyboy retards on the forums, who don't want anything that creates explosions, or who don't even want anti-air guns with 2 barrels, and who don't understand that or who refuse to understand that, and that obviously weapons need to scale. If you're playing high BR, you need bigger anti-tank guns. And yes, you also need bigger explosion filling against infantry, because the infantry is running around with fucking assault rifles, yeah? So everything needs to scale up. And especially against planes which are ridiculously fast or very tanky on high BR, you need strong anti-air guns. So yeah, engineers always stay good. On high BR they drop off because right now they're not scaling that well. But on low BR they're the best squad by far. And engineers are also the best class, so they're a slam dunk in S tier, better than machine gunners for sure. By definition better than APCs because the class is just better. Question is, are tanks better than engineers overall? I would say, let me think. Yeah, from strength, yes, but from versatility, no. So yeah, engineers right now the king of our enlisted classes so far. Next we have the twins of the attacker pilots, the fighter pilots. They are basically the same because the only planes worth playing in enlisted are fighter planes with bombs or rockets anyway. So they work the same as the attackers. There's only one difference though. If you look at which plane dominates every single BR, you will find that fighters are dominating more BRs than attackers. And this puts them like 5% above attackers. It's a formalistic differentiation. In real games, they're basically the same. For BR1, you will see that the Romanian-German fighter is the best plane. For BR2, the Soviet Land-Lease P-40 is the best plane. Insanely overpowered for BR2. For BR3, of course, the P-51 is the best plane from the Americans. From BR5, the American attacker P-47 is the best plane. Obviously, nothing is stronger. And for BR4, you could argue which one, most likely it's going to be an attacker. But since most, around 60, 70, 80% of all games are BR1 to 3 anyway, you have a majority of games dominated by fighters. So yeah, fighters it is. Fighters a little bit better than attackers, but they're basically the same. Doesn't matter much. Now comes an extra spicy one, the Paratroopers, which are extremely overranked by some people and extremely underranked by other people. Some people claim they're way too strong, which is not the case, because I can tell you they only work against medium enemy teams or weak teams, but not against good teams. So this is something that already is a problem. And here's the thing. They come with the special ability of obviously parachuting down, but this ability was nerfed significantly after their release, making them very slow. And as you can see, my Paratrooper guide, which I made for one specific for the American squad, but it's universally applicable for all squads, you really need to perfectly time. You need to know all the seconds by which to decide when to open your parachute to even get to a remotely playable parachuting time. But your normal paratrooper soldiers, your bots, they are still very slow because they are forced to open their chutes very, very early. This makes them ridiculously easy to kill. And if an enemy tank sees you while you drop to the ground, then your whole squad is wiped. So they are not really good against enemies who know what they're doing. They're only good against mediocre teams. But then they're actually quite useful. Their special abilities like the universal crate with all of the stuff, it's cool, but it all comes with the big price of being extremely slow. And in the meantime, you could have done the same thing with every other squad, but much faster, yeah, so, and with much less risk. But still, they have the useful ability to, if you don't have anything going on, if you don't have rallies, or if you're in a bad position, you sometimes can get lucky and save the game by a good paradrop. So they're definitely not B tier, they're definitely better than what we have in B tier, but they are significantly worse than the planes. Significantly worse. I would put them, here's the problem though. They're significantly worse than the planes and the riflemen. So we need to put them into high B tier. Because the only paratrooper squads I would play are the overpowered ones. Either the Thompsons for the Americans or the event American paratroopers with the 100-round machine gun, or the super flexible Soviet paratroopers, which can get any weapon you want, and which always scale with their box up to every BR. Unlike other nations which are bugged, some may call it Soviet bias. So yeah, but besides these exceptional, event or premium squads, like most paratroopers are just not that good. They're not that good, and I have them for every nation, but I only play them actually for Soviets and Americans, because for other nations, just not worth it. So yeah, it's okay for B, but they're not too special. And the problem is you can't even roleplay them. You can't even have fun getting some historical immersion out of them, because you can't jump into the enemy gray zone, which is what they actually were doing in real life. You would never drop into an area where you might get under fire. Never. This is absolutely asinine, but this is how they are forced to be played and enlisted, because you have to drop on the battlefield, you can't drop into the gray zone. So yeah, this is just too much nerfing, very nerfed. With less nerfs, they would be A, but the way they are right now, they're just way too bad. If they could surprise your enemy actually, yeah, they would be A, but right now they're just in a 2-week state. Then the Flamers, well, they're also limited to the squad itself, since you can't put flamethrower soldiers in the random squads. Now, the Flametroopers are highly underrated, I noticed, because they are a perfect squad. They are 7 men. They have a radio and an engineer, and you can even build them to be basically an assaulter squad, because you can build them into 2 assaulters and 2 flamers, plus one other specialist. So this is really good. On high BR, they get the overpowered flamers. On mid BR though, they get the weak flamers with flamethrowers, which aren't that strong. So these squads, they're basically high BR only. They're basically only good on high BR, which makes them highly limited, but they are really good. Now, I would always play them above Paratroopers, but yeah, since they're so limited, and since they're not that much needed, because instead of flamethrowers, even despite the overpowered ones, you can just play machine gunners. They're very similar in terms of how they're used, and the machine gunners don't have a maximum range. They always work, unlike the flamethrowers. So they're good. They're definitely a very strong squad, but they're highly limited. So it's weak A tier. Definitely way too good for B tier, but it's just weak A tier. And for the end, our last 2 squads, first Radiomen. Now Radiomen are possibly the most overrated squad in the game, because, don't worry, it won't be D, I think, but they have only one thing. And it's fast artillery. Instead of waiting 4 minutes, you wait 2 minutes. Okay, good. And anything else is just irrelevant, because rocket artilleries are weak as hell. They got instantly nerfed, which is completely dumb, because they got nerfed while they were still literally new in their first month. And now no one plays them because they're way too weak. Alright, that was a dumb decision. Then bomber raids also got nerfed, also way too weak. And also usually a big problem for your team, because the team that calls bomber raids blocks artillery strikes. You can't have, you're missing out on at least 2 artillery strikes, which is just way too expensive. You rather have artillery strikes than those stupid bomber raids that never do anything. So they are one of the biggest noob traps ever. And the only reason to play them, the only thing that makes them playable, is if you have an event or premium Radiomen squad that has a universal engineer that can build stuff. Because then you can build anti-tank guns in the gray zone and shell the points, or build anti-air guns and call quick artillery strikes with your fast artillery ability. This is the only thing. And this is the only thing that makes them remotely playable. But even only, you see many onlys, if you have countless squad slots on your left side of the screen, where you put it in as an emergency squad. Because the best way to play them is you just start the game with a normal squad, call an artillery strike, and then after 2 minutes, you just know, oh, 4 minutes haven't passed, it's just around 2 minutes. I'm gonna quickly take the radio squad so I can call the artillery, because this squad doesn't have to wait 4 minutes, only 2 minutes. Yes, this is the only good thing about it. So, yeah, this squad is just way too weak. It's only 5 soldiers. There's simply no firepower in that squad. It's too limited, and it relies on being a premium or event squad to be even remotely playable. So, yeah, is it better than anti-tank gunners? Here's the thing. On some BRs I actually play them, so it makes it a little bit better than mortars, I would say. Yeah, also there's basically no good premium mortar squad or event mortar squad, but there actually are some playable radio squads, especially the Soviet one that I recommended with the BR2 scoped semi-auto rifle, which is very fun to play. So yeah, Radiomen can be good, but they're very limited. They're not complete trash like bikes, but they're just the best of the worst. Let's put it this way. And for the end, we have assaulters. They may start with S, but they're nothing like, because in order to understand how overpowered assaulters are, consider that they are on par or even stronger than machine gunners in terms of firepower, combined with being extremely easy to play. It's by far the easiest squad to play in the game, because all you need to do is just run around and shoot. You're having access to the easiest and also strongest weapon type in the game, assault rifles or SMGs. And you get all of this in a perfect 7-man squad who can get engineers and radiomen, and 4 assaulters, not even just 3 machine gunners like the machine gunner squad. So everything screams overpowered. This is absolutely literally the Fortnite squad of Enlisted. Very easy to play, very overpowered. There's absolutely no reason why the squad is so strong. If anything, it should have a penalty. They should have just 1 assaulter less, because it's just way too strong compared to anything else. And once again, one of the main arguments for Partisans was it's easy and fun to play. Assaulters are exactly the same thing, but they come with many more advantages on top of the Partisans. Yeah, so the only question is, are they better than APCs, tanks, or engineers? Now, when it came to being brain dead easy to play, yeah, they would be number 1, which is exactly why most Sweatlords and BR5 play them. But if you're talking about serious high quality gaming, engineers are still better, because teams with access to engineers but not assaulters will defeat teams where it's the opposite. So in terms of utility and infantry, the engineers are the absolute top of Enlisted. The actual hard question is, are assaulters better than tanks? I would put them above APCs. But here's the question, are they even better than APCs? Now, APCs require some skill, and they have similar firepower to assaulters, because they oftentimes have a similar layout of soldiers. The utility is much better for APCs. Firepower, if it's an APC with a weapon, it's even a bit higher. I would rank APCs above assaulters, because the biggest upside they have is the tempo advantage. Since APCs are so much more important if you're behind in a game. If you don't have any rallies and you're a defender, APCs are the only thing that can save you, not a bunch of assaulters bum rushing from 200 meters away. Same thing is if you're an attacker and you're low on tickets and you need to get a miraculous quick cap. APCs are the only thing that can save you very often, whereas assaulters being slow, not really. The manpower advantage of 1 soldier less in an APC compared to assaulters, I would say statistically it even gets overcompensated by the fact that you're usually faster in the action. because being faster at the action means you're wasting less time, meaning less ticket drain. And being quicker at the action, starting to fight earlier, has a similar effect as having more soldiers. And just one soldier, so 70% more, yeah, I'd rather have the speed advantage than 17% more soldiers in my squad. So APCs, I would say, are definitely better. And since APCs are beating assaulters on utility, and they are very similar in firepower, and the fact that we noticed that tanks are just so much stronger in terms of firepower than both of them, and utility in that case, well, if you have too much oppressive firepower, utility becomes secondary. And there's a utility in itself if your tank completely dominates the game and throws completely everything upside down what the enemies are doing. So I would rate tanks still better. So yeah, this is the list. Engineers are the winners, then tanks, then APCs, then assaulters, then machine gunners as the absolutely best squads in the game. This is mostly what I expected before making the video, but not perfectly exactly that. There's an Easter egg in this video, and you might have noticed it already. It's the omission of the medics. Yes, the class that no one cares about or even remembers. Why? It's a running gag from before the merge, when medics were introduced, but no one was playing them for 1 year straight. Because they're just straight up worse assaulters. They play the same way, but they have a smaller squad and no specialists. This is very bad. Now, after the merge, they are forced upon new players by being the first SMG class. So new players are always playing them, but the moment they get Partisans or they get assaulters, basically everyone switches them instantly out. They're just not good. And the problem with medics in Enlisted is they don't work within the rule set of Enlisted, because the healing, not only is it very inefficient because you have to run around, you have to heal soldiers, whereas instead you could just shoot the people attacking your teammates. This would save more lives. Shooting the bad guys saves more lives than healing the victims of the bad guys. It's in Enlisted the same way as it's in real life. So if you want to save lives as a medic in Enlisted, you better play assaulters and assault the enemies. Yeah? And even if you're a very perfect good medic, the payoff, the trade-off is just very bad, because you in exchange for the med box, you're giving up lots of firepower that you could just have, either as a partisan or as an assaulter. So yeah, the squad is just sadly not worth it, absolutely not worth it. And unlike someone like Mortar Men, Radiomen, or tank gunners, the squad is completely bad, and the class is even worse. Because despite the tank gunners being basically the worst squad, you would still oftentimes want to have tank gunners in your squads, in your other squads. But you will never want to have medics above other good classes. Yeah, so yeah, of course, there are some exceptions. Some people play them, but it's not worth it. It's absolutely not worth it. So medics go straight as the worst C class. And the only reason they are in C at all is the fact that new players will always have to play them. So that's it. That's the ranking of all the classes enlisted, all the classes and squads. Let me know what you think, whether you disagree or agree, and what your arguments are. And of course, drop a like and subscribe if you're new, and share this with your nerd friends so you can have very spicy, heated debates and lots of nerd rage about how everyone's favorite squad is too high or too low on the list. Alright? Until soon, goodbye.